Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Mother-in-Law Stories. It's fairly easy to know what this video is about, so let's not waste any time on introductions and get started with the first story. My ex-husband's mother was an absolute lunatic for sure. She made rude comments from the moment she met me because she thought I was stealing her baby from her. When we became engaged, she hugged me and told me in front of her whole family that she was so glad he chose me instead of any of the other girlfriends he has. Whatever that means. When it came time to plan the wedding, she insisted we do all the planning at her home at the table so she could make rude comments and make sure we did things her way. She thought the colors that I chose were gross and that the dresses I chose for the bridesmaids would not flatter my fat sister. Meanwhile, her terrible daughter is twice the size of me and my sister put together. Of course, my twit of a husband said nothing. She once asked us what my parents were going to do to help us out. I did not want to tell her because it was between my ex-husband, me, and my family. But he just opened his big mouth freely and let her know that they were giving us a down payment for our first home and that they would pay for half the wedding. His family could pay for the other half if they chose, or if not, then he and I would. She told us that we should spend the money for our house on flying his relatives from another country, whom she even admitted he had never met or seen, and he could not even speak to them since he never learned their native language, or that if he wanted a great house, we should buy the one next to them. I could not help but laugh out loud at that, and he thought it was a smashing idea. She insisted her obnoxious daughter be in the wedding and that they both accompany me to get my wedding dress. I thought that was an awful idea since we were not friends, and I feel it would have been tacky since my own mother and three sisters wanted to take me there, as well as to a nice lunch and to the park to take pictures of our last single ladies' day out. She cried when I told her I had already made plans and stormed out of the room. My annoying sister-in-law smirked at me and said, "Good job, witch." When it came time to pay for the maids' dresses, his mom asked if we could pay for his sisters as a gift since she doesn't have a lot of money, which is a lie. At the rehearsal dinner, they asked my father how much money he made, how much he paid for his lovely house and cars, and where he ever got the money to give us for a wedding and house, and called him Daddy Warbucks all night long. Even thinking about it makes me cringe. At the reception, his mother cried when I danced with my father because she thought it was tacky that she did not have a special dance with her little boy. She got drunk and sat on my father's lap, kissed my husband with an open mouth while everyone was watching, and told the DJ not to play anything but polka since that was her hubby's favorite. She ruined the whole day. My handicapped cousin was there dancing with my sister, and she made fun of him too. Of all people, his mother. She and her husband got so drunk that they could not drive home, and instead rode in the limo with us back to our hotel and got the room next to ours. It was so devastating to me. My wedding was ruined and my husband did nothing to stop it. They watched pay-per-view adult movies in their room all night long at extremely high volume and banged on the wall and asked if we were having fun yet. Can you imagine? It was heartbreaking and the marriage was just as bad. They hit my car one night coming over our house drunk and begged me not to file a report. When I did, Mommy was arrested and never forgave me until she wanted a job for her rotten daughter at my place of employment shortly after she was incarcerated. Needless to say, I never heard from them after that, but my ex-husband spent almost every weekend with them while I sat at home. I felt that since we both worked all week, we should save our weekends for each other. But his family needed him. That was the worst time of my life, but I should tell you, it has a very happy ending. My new husband and in-laws are wonderful, grown-up, sober people. They treat us both respectfully, make me feel like their own daughter, and come visit us often and never complain. For our first Christmas together, we did not have much money, so they paid our rent that month so that we could have money to buy each other nice things. We never even asked them to do that. At the holidays, they always give us things to go with our interests and hobbies. I guess life decided I had suffered enough, and after the great decision of divorcing that spineless mommy's boy, sent me a real partner with a family worth my love. I'm so happy right now. It doesn't matter if I lose my job or something like that, because there's a whole family, apart from my own, that loves me and supports me. Oh, OP's ex-in-laws just sound cringy as F, man. I mean, kissing your son with an open mouth, that's just gross. Then getting the room next to them for their wedding night, banging on the wall asking if they're having fun yet? Come on, man. It's a good thing OP got out of that sucky marriage with that spineless husband, and like she says, life sent her a proper partner. Good on you, OP. Alright, and now let's move on to our main story. How do I begin? Well, let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. My mother-in-law had it in me from the moment I started dating my husband. I am 4 years older than him and had just graduated college. He had just graduated high school, and we just thought we would date for the summer before he went away to school. Well, at the end of the summer, we both realized we were in love and that we didn't want our relationship to end. My mother-in-law, during this whole time, had been cordial but not too friendly. She figured that we would break up when he left. Well, we were still together by Christmas, and this is when I saw the change. All of a sudden, she began to grill me about what I wanted to do with my life and why didn't I have a full-time career. I was in grad school full-time, and what I was studying wasn't a marketable skill. I am a music teacher. On and on this seemed to go, and my poor husband didn't know what to do because anytime he defended me, she threatened to stop paying for his tuition. What he didn't know then, and what makes you realize what an awful person she is, was that a relative who had died left money to his mom to pay for his whole 4 years of college. But the way she talked, she claimed to have been earning it herself to put him through. Anyway, I was never invited over for anyone's birthdays because I was not family. My husband's 21st birthday arrived and he wanted to go to Atlantic City to gamble. We had been dating for 3 years by then. Guess what? She didn't want me going because, again, I wasn't family. My husband, God bless him, told her then that she could forget about going and that he and I would go and meet the others there. This is just an example of how screwed up she was and how she tried to control everyone. Well, we got engaged almost 2 years ago and she was devastated. She told my husband that I was desperate to get married. We had been dating for 6 years. That the only reason why he was marrying me was because I had 4 brothers, and because he was an only child, he didn't know what it was like to have a big family. That I was the kind of girl who would deliberately get pregnant in order to trap him. And that I was only marrying him for his money. Nice, huh? The year of our engagement was horrible too, because by then my husband didn't need her or her money, and we saw very little of her. Granted, she still made us unhappy by emailing him and making all kinds of demands for the wedding. She never even called my parents to congratulate them. She spread all kinds of nasty gossip about my family to her friends, and they began to treat us as badly as she did. She sent me incorrect addresses of her friends and then blamed me when her friends didn't receive their invitations. She promised my mother that she was only inviting 55 people and then proceeded to give us a list of over 90. She offered to pay for a number of things, such as rehearsal dinner, photographer, and limousine, and then refused when she realized that we weren't doing everything the way she wanted. The last straw was the day of our wedding. My parents were giving a post-reception party at our local firehouse, and my mother-in-law had responded that she and my father-in-law would attend. We then were told that because there was so many people that she wasn't allowed to invite to the wedding, that she was going to have something back at her house for those people, and that she would appreciate it if my husband and I would come over. She planned this a week before our wedding, when my parents had planned their party months before. Well, we didn't go over because all of my husband's relatives were at the firehouse and he didn't see why he should leave them to go and talk to his mother's friends. We didn't receive so much as a card from them for our wedding, and some of the gifts we got from her friends, well, let's just say it was obvious that she encouraged them to insult us. How about a Lenox bowl from one friend that my mother-in-law claimed was a work of art that was signed and dated, yet it could be found in any department store for $20? Better yet, a $5 pair of candlesticks we received from another friend, which the department store I went to ask about it said that it was so old they didn't even carry it anymore. I am happy to say that we have not seen my in-laws since the day I was married, which is now going on 9 months. We exchange cards at holidays and that is about it. My husband sent them a very blunt letter telling them that we can have no real relationship with them until his mother makes amends with me, my family, and a number of relatives on his side that she also is not speaking to. I feel no sympathy for them because a number of people have spoken with them about how they are treating us, including a therapist, and they refuse to change. My only dilemma is what happens when we start a family. I don't like the idea of my children never seeing them, but the amount of pain they have caused my husband and myself is enormous. It is really sad to see that my in-laws have no regrets about what they have done and that they are willing to cut my husband off because of their pride. I do feel bad for OP because her in-laws sound like idiots. Cutting their son off because of pride? That's ridiculous. And okay, so you may have an opinion or you may not like the person your son or daughter have chosen to spend the rest of their life with, but that's it. You can only have an opinion and you shouldn't even be sharing it. The only question you should be asking is my son or my daughter happy? And if the answer is yes, then you just have to get used to it, or else you're going to lose said son or daughter. Well, I mean, if you raised a child with a spine, like OP's husband here in this story definitely has a spine that he can stand up to his own parents and tell them to F off. But then again, that's just my opinion. Okay, now let's move on to the next story. I recently got engaged to my boyfriend of 3 years. For background, he's an oncologist. His parents divorced when he was 5. Mother-in-law never remarried or had more kids, but father-in-law did, and so my fiance has a younger half-brother and a stepmom. I have a bachelor's and MBA from decent schools, but I quit my conventional office job to be a yoga teacher and eventually opened up my own yoga studio. Mother-in-law was not outwardly hostile towards me, more like polite but very cold. She told my fiance it was because a yoga teacher wasn't good enough for him. Why couldn't he find a nice lady doctor or nurse at work, etc. Fiance told me this because we don't keep secrets, but I never mentioned it to mother-in-law. I just stopped trying so hard. She would periodically warn my fiance I was out for his money because he's a doctor, he needs someone on the same level. What mother-in-law did not learn until after we were engaged is that through my grandfather I have a substantial trust fund. I have 0 student loans, a paid-off home, car, and own my studio with no debt. I keep this information private from most people because I don't want to be judged for it. I didn't tell my fiance until about 15 months into our relationship. When we got engaged, she was telling my fiance he needs a prenup, and that's when he told her about my finances. She lost her mind. Told him he and I should not have withheld that information. We were disrespectful, deceitful, manipulative, etc. She then started trying to act like my best friend. I maintained a polite distance. She asked my fiance why, and he told her that I knew he didn't like me because a yoga teacher isn't good enough. Yo, she turned on the waterworks. Tears, sobs, said he should not have told me and that he ruined her relationship with her future daughter-in-law. I think she's full of it. His father and stepmom have been kind, accepting, warm, and loving to me since the day we met. It didn't matter that I'm just a yoga teacher. His mother insists I and my fiance are cruel and deceitful. I think people like her are the reason I am right to hide my financial situation. Fiance thinks we should apologize just to smooth things over and clean the slate. I have no interest in doing so. Just in case you're wondering, my fiance would defend me when she insulted me. She did know I owned the studio but assumed that I financed it with loans. He did not have my explicit permission to share my finances with her, but was so sick of her harping about a prenup he wanted to shut her up. As for all of the advice about the prenup, that was always the plan, which my fiance is obviously fine with. She's probably going to lose her mind. From what I understand, my fiance is what some people refer to as a surrogate spouse to his mother. Another incident comes to mind where she started crying when he wanted to spend his birthday dinner on the day of his birthday with me instead of her and offered her the day before or after. That's clearly not healthy. Good for OP keeping her financial situation private. That is a very private thing, and it's incredibly annoying when people keep asking you how much money you make or whatnot, or try to evaluate or judge you based on the amount of money you have in your bank account. That must have sucked for OP's fiance to get to see his mother in that light, that, she just liked people based on the amount of money they had. But I guess that's a lesson learned, right? At least the stepmom and the dad never judged her about anything and just loved her from the beginning. She seems like a nice person. Very smart, too. Alright, and that is all for this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, like usually, just go ahead and click like. If you've heard this before, you haven't subscribed to the channel, then just go ahead and subscribe. You like the content, don't fight it, just subscribe. And don't forget to visit the Lost Genre subreddit where you can cross-post stories you'd like me to feature or share your own. And having said all that, I'll see you guys on the next video.